Welcome to Cheryl K's Cooking Diaries, old-fashioned Southern cooking. Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Cheryl K's Cooking Diaries. This morning, we're going to make something very delicious, and we're going to put a beef chuck roast in the crock pot with some veggies. So, give me just a second, and I'm going to show you how I do mine. Okay, guys, let me show you what I put in my beef chuck roast, okay? Alright, I'm using like I said, a beef chuck roast. This has been frozen in my deep freezer. And I don't quite remember what the weight on this was because it came in a big pack, because actually I cut this in half, and there was a half of this that I made a while back. And so I don't remember the actual weight, but because as I've stated before, I store a lot of meat. So anyway, I use a beef chuck roast. That's usually about the only kind I buy. And now this is frozen. I haven't thawed this out. This is frozen. And you can cook your roast frozen. They don't have to thaw out, guys. I mean, some people think that they have to thaw, but you don't have to let them thaw. I mean, you can put them right in there frozen. It doesn't hurt a thing in your crock pot. You're going to need that, and you are going to need some unsalted beef broth. That's what I use, because a lot of that other broth out there has got so much sodium in it, and so I buy the unsalted. It's got a little bit in it, but it's not got like 900 to 1,000 milligrams in here. So we're only going to use 1 cup of the unsalted beef broth. Okay, you are going to need 1 packet of the McCormick slow cooker pot roast mix, and then you're going to need just maybe a small, medium-sized onion cut up. You might want to quarter it this way. I'm not a big fan of onion cooked in a roast, but I do this because my husband really likes the onion in a roast. So I just put the chunks around in the pot instead of laying it all over everything. So that's, you're going to need just a small or medium onion quartered, okay? And then you're going to need just some baby carrots. These are the baby carrots that's halved. I just halved them, cut them in 2 because they're kind of big. And usually most of the baby carrots are smaller, but these were actually kind of big this time. And then you're just going to need some potatoes. Now I have some potatoes down here, but I have them in water, and I have them chunked up into chunk-sized pieces. And I put my potatoes, when I cut them up, wash them off really good, and I chunk them up. What I do is I put them in some water, because when you put them in water, that keeps them from turning brown, okay? And then I rinse my potatoes off really good, because that does help pull some of that extra starch off there as well, okay? So guys, that's all you're going to need as far as the meat and the veggies go, because that's all I put in mine. A lot of people put a lot of different stuff in it, but I just try to keep it pretty basic. And now you can use one of these, or you don't have to use one of these. This is a Crock-Pot Liner, and these just help to keep the crock pot pretty clean inside. So these are a good thing to have if you have one. If you don't have one, just put it in there as is. You'll just have to scrub your crock pot out a little bit later. But I always wash my crock pot out even after I use a liner or something. But we're going to be cooking this on high, okay? If I don't, it'd take it forever to get done. So anyway, guys, let me get you down here, because that's all you're going to need that goes into a roast. So let me get you down here and show you how I put this together. So give me just a second. Okay, guys, the first thing you're going to want to do if you're using a Crock-Pot Liner is open it up, okay? This is one of the really good size ones, but I'd rather use a little bit bigger. And just put it down in there. Just stick it down in there like this, okay? And you want to kind of drape this over the sides of your crock pot, okay? Like I said, this is a little big for this size, but it's better to have one bigger. and just flatten it out inside your crock pot. So kind of take your hand and just flatten it out in there. Kind of go around the edges, make sure it's kind of flattened out around the edges, or the sides, I should say. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to get it as snug as you can. Oh, I take my package of my McCormick pot roast mix, okay? Take me a little bowl, and I dump that in there. Like, and I've seen people pour this right over top of their roast, but I just prefer to do it this way because I think it's better with getting all over it when you do it this way. And take 1 cup of the beef broth. Shake that up really good because this does settle, okay? Any kind of broth will settle, all right? Now, take 1 cup of the beef broth, right? Pour it into your measuring cup. I don't make a mess doing this, y'all. Okay, there's 1 cup of the beef broth. I'm going to pour that into my seasoning packet. Next is I take me a whisk, and I whisk this in really well. And you don't have to use any seasonings on your pot roast if you're using one of these packets, because it's got all the seasoning already in it, okay? Unless you just like extra seasoning. And sometimes I'll put a little bit of black pepper over my pot roast when it cooks, you know, during the cook time. So, guys, this takes about, on high, that size of a beef roast will take right about 6 hours, something like that. You'll just want to check it as time goes on. And you're going to want to put your, you know, your vegetables in with it when you put it in, because those take a while to cook as well. So don't wait until later to put them in, because it won't be done. You know, your vegetables won't get done in time, okay? And you're going to see that most of this stuff will float to the top, the seasonings that's in here, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. So see, guys, that's why I don't use any extra seasoning. Sometimes I'll use a little black pepper, like I said, on top of my beef roast when it cooks, but I don't really add anything else because it's got plenty of seasoning in there, in that pack. I'm going to undo this roast. I'm going to unwrap this roast real quick. Let's see how I've got it here. Okay. That's frozen solid, guys. See there? It's pretty lean, and that's why I like a beef chuck roast, is because it's really lean like that, and you don't have to worry about a whole lot of fat. Now, there's some fat on there, but you can't really get that off. You know what I mean? So I don't fool with worrying about cutting all this off, because it will cook up anyway. So, but overall, a beef chuck roast is what you want, because they're so tender and they are so lean, and that's what I like about them. Okay, my hands touching that meat. Wash them off. Okay, guys, here we go. All right. So what you're going to want to do is take your frozen beef roast, or unthawed, either way. Stick down in your bag. Okay. And now what you're going to do is go ahead and take your baby carrots, okay? And we're just going to scatter them in there. Just like this. Just kind of evenly distribute them if you can. I mean, it's not really a have-to thing, but I always like to try to get mine evenly distributed around my beef roast. Now, the onion, I'm just going to take it, and I'm just going to kind of put it in the corners around the roast. I'm going to kind of stick it in down there, and that way we have one on each corner of it, that way. And we're going to take our potatoes. Now, I use quite a few potatoes because I like the potatoes in it, okay? My husband's not as big a fan. But he likes potatoes, but he don't like a lot of them. But since I eat a lot of potatoes in it, I always add the extra potatoes. So we kind of compromise that way. I figure, well, I add onion for you, I'm going to add extra potatoes for me. That kind of deal, right? So anyway, do the same thing with your potatoes. Just kind of evenly distribute them. Just throw them around in there. And you might want to kind of mix them in a little bit with your carrots. Kind of make it a little colorful. Since I got so many, it's going to be hard to probably really see the carrots in it anyway, so not a big deal. It's all going to cook up, y'all, and it's all going to be delicious, so this is pretty good size, so. Alrighty, so we got our onions, carrots, and our potatoes in there. Alrighty. Okay. Get them kind of pushed down in there because I want them to cook good too, so. The last thing I do is I take our seasoning mix that we mixed up with 1 cup of beef broth. Sometimes I add a little bit of extra water because sometimes too much you can add too much beef broth. So I try to add a little bit of water and kind of equal it out. Just pour this over your potatoes and your roast. That's all you got to do. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. Let me see if I can see where the line is on that, because I don't want to add too much. Yeah, we're going to need to add a little extra water, y'all, okay? So add you a little water, because you got to have some kind of broth in here, y'all. I mean, you don't want to just add that and that only. Okay. So I think that'd be plenty right there, because I don't want to add a whole bunch of water. But you got to have some, because this is going to cook. See, I've got about not quite half of liquid in there. Okay, I don't know if y'all can see that jiggle in there or not. But anyway, that's it. I mean, that's all you need to do, other than if you want to add some seasonings, you feel free to do so. But remember, that seasoning pack has got a lot of seasonings in it, okay? So you may not want to add a whole big bunch of seasonings. All I'm going to do here is we're going to turn our crock pot on. We're going to turn it on high and let it get started. And then we're just going to go ahead and let it cook. And that's all we're going to do. Like I said, it takes anywhere between 6.5 hours, but I'll let you know when it gets done about how long it took, okay? And like I said, you can add anything you want to this, but I think I'm going to add me a little pepper, because I try to do that. I kind of go around with my pepper on my potatoes. Just add a little bit more pepper, because sometimes we like a lot. We like black pepper quite a bit, so. All right, that's plenty. I don't add no salt to this, because that seasoning packet, it's got plenty of salt in it. So we don't need to add any extra salt to this, okay? All right, guys, I'm just going to put the lid on this, and I'll check it occasionally. Just make sure you check it occasionally and see where it's at. All right, guys, that's all there is to it, and it's real simple to do, but when it gets done, I'll bring y'all back and I'll show you what it turns out like. So, and I may even bring you back even sooner just so I can show you how it's cooking along. So anyway, y'all, I will talk to you here shortly. Guys, I thought I'd bring you back on real quick. I want to show you where the beef roast, the chuck roast is at in the crock pot. I've had it on and actually started at about a quarter after, I think it was right about a quarter after 10 this morning, after we put everything in here. And it's about 5 after 1 now. It's been in here now for right about 3 hours. So I'm going to open the lid and show you what I've got going on in here. Now, I want to tell you something that I do. And you don't have to do this, but be very careful if you do. I keep my liner pulled down around my crock pot. And don't worry, I mean, these are for crock pots, and it's not going to burn or anything. Mine hasn't. But if you feel better with pulling it out and kind of pulling it up like this away from your sides of your crock pot when you put your lid on, feel free to do that. But it's okay. I mean, I've never had an issue with it. So, but that's been my experience now, okay? So what I did is sometimes when you cook roast, and, because see, I don't put a whole lot of liquid in mine because we just did the 1 cup of the seasoning mix with the beef broth, and then we just added a little bit of water over that after we poured that in. And as you've seen this morning, I didn't add a lot. So when you cook roast, sometimes what ends up happening is one side or the other, when you cook it, it tends to want to look a little dry. So what I always do, instead of adding more broth or adding more water, I flip my roast. And I've already done that, guys. I just flipped it a little bit ago, just so both sides could stay kind of moist and tender. Now, you can, if you want to add a little more water and just cover the whole top of your roast, you can do that as well. But it's something that I just don't do as much. So what I do, and this roast is pretty thick, so I just kind of push it down in there like this. I take my fork and just kind of push on it a little bit. And just kind of push it down in there. And with the lid on it, it should stay pretty well, it should stay pretty moist. But I always flip mine just to make sure that everything stays moist and tender. And I'll tell you, when you put a frozen roast in a crock pot, you have to remember something. When you add a frozen roast, or anything frozen like that, when it goes to thaw out inside of the crock pot, it is going to create more water, okay, just from where it's been frozen. So you've got to allow for that as well. And as you can see, there is quite a bit of broth in my roast. And no better than a good old beef chuck roast in a crock pot with potatoes and carrots and onion and seasonings, and with some big slice of buttermilk cornbread. There is just nothing better than that, guys. And y'all, I'm going to put this lid back on here, because the more you take these lids off, the longer it takes for them to get done, because every time you take a lid off a crock pot, it's going to take that extra time to heat back up once again. I will be back here shortly, guys. Okay, guys, the roast is completely done. And so anyway, I just wanted to show y'all what it looked like real quick. It is tender. Got a lot of its own gravy that it made. Y'all can see that, I don't know, but see there? Look how tender that is. The potatoes, carrots, and everything, all of that is finished and done. So it's going to be delicious. So anyway, my husband can't wait. He's been sort of picking around in it kind of since I put it in this bowl. No, actually, he's been picking around in it since it was in the crock pot when it was done. So anyway, I know he's pretty hungry, guys, but that is it. And it's very easy to make, guys. It's something very simple to do. And anybody can make a roast in a crock pot. Because you just make it and basically walk away and leave it alone. Just keep an eye on it. And like I said, we're having for dinner tonight is a chuck roast, potatoes and carrots with onion. And we're having this delicious buttermilk cornbread fixed in. Oh, and by the way, if y'all have never tried this, it's called Move Over Butter. And this butter is so good. And I'm telling you, it's whipped. This is a whipped butter with sweet cream buttermilk. And I get this at Walmart, but if you have never tried it, give it a try. I think you'd like it. We put it on our cornbread and our corn and all that, so it is really good. Anyway, y'all, listen, I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. I know we're going to. So listen, guys, if you don't mind to go to Cheryl K's Cooking Diaries and like, follow, and share, I would greatly appreciate it. If you don't mind, to go on over to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe there as well. I would appreciate it. So listen, guys, y'all stay safe, and always remember to keep God in your heart and God in your life. Bye. As always, thanks for watching Old Fashioned Southern Cooking. Bye, y'all.